Hello, my name's Gavin, and this is Genre Books, and this is the second part of the book haul this last week, visiting Faversham and Canterbury. And this is what I managed to pick up in Canterbury. More Edgar Rice Burroughs, Lost on Venus. Michael Moorcock, The Knight of Swords, the first book of Coram, which I've not read this one, but let's guess it's part of his Eternal Champion series somehow. Douglas Adams, The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul, the sequel to Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Barrington Bailey's The Fall of Chronopolis. Fontana Collins from 1980. Light a Last Candle by Vincent King, his first novel. Fool's Run by Patricia McKillip. Two books from Clifford D. Simak, So Bright the Vision and Time and Again. Derry Tales, edited by Catherine Kurtz, it's a collection of stories by other authors set in that world, although it does have a Catherine Kurtz story in there as one of those. I want to maybe read that once I've finished the main series, and to do that I'll need to get those last Ballantine adult fantasy books. And two instances where I have some books in a sequence and found a whole lot more in that same series, which I'm not quite sure of. This first one I've got all of them yet, but I found a bunch of Well of Souls books by Jack L. Walker, so Exiles at the Well of Souls, Quest for the Well of Souls, The Return of Nathan Brazil with Added Dinosaur, and Twilight at the Well of Souls. And the other week I picked up the first book of the Gandalara cycle by Randall Garrett and Vicky and Hadron. Somehow, one of the bookshops that we visited had the entire rest of the series, but not that first volume, so I decided that was kismet. The Glass of Discornis, The Bronze of Idara, The Well of Darkness, The Search for Ka, Return to Idara, and The River Wall. So I've got the entire collection now. They look like they would be very brief reads, and maybe I'll save these for a read what you own challenge to help get me past the line, perhaps. 4 hardbacks from the Science Fiction Book Club. I'm still in two minds about these books. I love the fact that you can get these hardbacks relatively cheaply. The covers aren't my favourite things in the world, but the books hold together really well, and you get an interesting selection. Here we have Candyman by Vincent King, Time Scoop by John Brunner, Edmund Cooper's The Overman Culture, and Mark Adlard's Interface. So these are not always household name authors in the Science Fiction Book Club, and that's an attraction, but it's also something of a punt, so I do hope it pays off. First edition of The Toynbee Vector, a collection of short stories by Ray Bradbury from 1988-89. The Motion of Light in Water, Sex and Science Fiction Writing in the East Village, 1957 to 1965. So a memoir here from Samuel R. Delany. And finally, for the science fiction, something that I think this must be looks like it might be a print on demand, but something that I didn't know existed, and something which I'm very pleased does. And this is the Shaver Mystery Compendium, Volume 8, the last volume, which means there's another 7 volumes to get, and it is about a very strange time in pulp fiction, science fiction magazines. The Shaver Mystery is something that I mentioned in passing just last week in my video on The Coming Race by Edward Bulwer Lytton, and it's a hollow earth set of stories, but one in which the author absolutely 100% believes existed. I'm definitely going to do some videos at some point on the Shaver mystery once I know a bit more about it, because what I've read so far is just wacky and fascinating in equal measure. In the previous book haul video, I showed a book I had purchased called Don't, Mr. Disraeli, but I don't take my own advice. And here is Sybil by Benjamin Disraeli. I've not read any of his books before, but I believe this is the most famous of the books he wrote, so I figured a good place to start. Up the Junction by Nell Dunn, The 12 Caesars by Suetonius, a collection of essays by Umberto Eco, Travels in Hyperreality, more Damon Runyon, Guys and Dolls. I don't know whether this is because I started reading a couple of Damon Runyon stories, but after what seems to be a lifetime of never seeing his books around, I saw 3 in the space of 2 days and bought 2 of them. So looking forward to some more stories of gangsters. The Bridge on the River Kwai by Pierre Boulle, obviously made into the famous film, and the only other Pierre Boulle book I've read is Planet of the Apes, so quite a genre leap. I'll apologise for the pronunciation up front, but The Pillow Book of Sei Shonagon, in case you wanted to know what life is like in 10th century Japan. I think this is the place to start. Joseph Heller, Good as Gold, a what-if novel, but a very specific one. What if John Milton had had to escape the UK and go to America? And a little bit of history. A World Without End. The Global Empire of Philip II of Spain by Hugh Thomas. Another contender for June on the Range, and another of these lovely sort of a yellow jacket, Hodder and Stoughton westerns. This is Zane Grey, The Hash Knife Outfit. And just being a little cheeky and adding in 3 books that arrived in the post over the last week or two. 2 of these are in the Ballantine adult fantasy range. That's The Lost Continent by C.J. Cutliff Hine, and this is a story of Atlantis, so may fit in with all this Lost World literature I seem to be finding myself attracted to very recently. A fantasy book of the Norse legends, and this is Hrolf Kraki's Saga by Poul Anderson. And because Michael K. Vaughan gave it such a glowing review, Tim Powers, The Anubis Gates. So I believe the tradition is now this sits on my shelf for 2 decades before I get round to reading it. And that is it. And that might be the last book haul for a little while, because I am now, I'm going to say, at capacity. My family may say well over capacity, but I'm going to have to do a little bit of a bookshelf rejig to try to fit all these in. I've also got to log all these books as being purchased and add them all on little slips of paper to the tote bag of mild peril, so that they get an equal chance of being selected as the next book I will randomly pick and read. So yes, to catalogue and shelve them. Before that, be very careful trying to take these price labels off, and be very careful scrubbing the penciled in prices with my magic eraser. And I will catch you again with something else very soon. Bye.